Megalopolis, a movie that wants to be so much and yet offers so little. It's perfectly summed up by quoting one of the director's inspirations. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Hello and welcome to my channel. Here I review movies and television shows. Today I want to talk about Megalopolis. It's a sci-fi political drama about Caesar Catalina trying to save humanity through his new housing project, Megalopolis. That doesn't really describe what the movie is though, so let me give this another shot. This movie is trying to be a modern-day Shakespeare play. It even borrows monologues from several of them. If you've ever seen that modern Romeo and Juliet, this is a lot like that. Half of the movie involves people talking about the virtues of humanity, and large abstract concepts using endless metaphors and flowery language. The other half is a semi-coherent love story between Caesar and his rival's daughter Julia. Throw in an unhealthy amount of drugs, sex, and debauchery, plus a half-baked assassination plot, and voila, you have Megalopolis. For positives, you're looking at a few of the actors' performances, a couple sections of the visual journey, and one incredibly funny scene near the end. Giancarlo Esposito is fantastic in this film. He plays the mayor of New Rome, Cicero. His character is a slightly corrupt official who is trying to keep the status quo while fighting to keep his position. Esposito gets to do a lot of moving emotional moments throughout the film and plays well off the other actors, especially Adam Driver and Natalie Emmanuel. Adam Driver plays Caesar, and while there are some strange moments in his performance, there's also a lot of big emotion. He also shows decent chemistry with Natalie Emmanuel during the romance sections and a lot of charisma during his monologues. Natalie Emmanuel got kind of shafted by the writing, but did her part beautifully anyway. She plays the love interest with a little bit of spunk and did it well. She's flirty and charming while still possessing a certain amount of integrity. She also plays well off the rest of the cast. For visuals, this movie is pretty trippy. There are a lot of endless montages, crazy artistic visual metaphors, and even the basic set and costume designs are exceptionally wild. That said, some of it works. There are standout shots throughout the entire film and visual effects that are awesome to behold. I liked the time manipulation stuff where he's freezing and unfreezing time, and I thought the visual metaphors about the fall of Rome worked well. I liked how the shadows projected across New Rome correlated to the citizens' current state of mind. As for the funny scene near the end, it's not supposed to be funny, or at least I don't think it is. It's hilarious though, and had me just about dying in my seat. I can't really talk about it without ruining it, but let's just say that Jon Voight's boner has never been deadlier. On the negative side of things, the film's writing sucks. The general cast is all over the place in terms of their performances. The visual journey is weird and confusing, and the soundtrack is not only ineffective, it's annoying. For the writing, you have a story that is steeped in pretentious bullshit and way too long. It wants to be a romance, and a political drama, and a comedy, and a mystery, and a sci-fi. It just can't decide what it wants to do. So you get little pieces of everything, and none of them feel right because they don't match anything else. The Shakespearean dialogue is pointless and confusing. It doesn't add anything to the film and is hard to decipher because it's lazily ripped from different plays and thrown in here at random. The story also doesn't explain anything. We never learn what Megalon is, why Claudio hates Caesar so much, or anything about how the setting came to be. With so much bogging it down and so much going unexplained, the story ends up being boring and confusing, which is basically a death sentence for any movie. On top of that, there are a lot of bad performances in this film, starting with Aubrey Plaza. I don't normally find her all that impressive, but she really tops the turd pile in this one. She shows up to do her normal hypersexualized character that's mean, but this time tries to add in some emotional beats. It's not good. Her crying face looks like she's sucking on a lemon, and I physically cringed listening to her try to do the obsessive lover routine. She just has no emotion in her voice. She also takes the hypersexualized image up to 11 and becomes something of a caricature. Shia LaBeouf appears as the villain and has both good and bad moments. Sometimes he comes off as a psychotic degenerate trying to create chaos. Then they try to make an actual character out of him and we get a lot of awkward deliveries. Sadly, there's also Jon Voight. I love this man as an actor and have watched him in film since I was a kid. But at some point, John, you have to realize it's time to move on. He can barely speak and all of his dialogue is hard to hear. He literally plays a dying man getting his rocks off one last time, and every time he's on screen, it's like watching a dementia patient being fondled by a stripper. If it wasn't for the main cast, this film would have very little to offer in the way of performances. Visually, the film has a lazy Roman aesthetic, a lot of endless montages, confusing visual metaphors, and does a terrible job of keeping track of time. It's a drama that mostly takes place in the high society of New Rome, which is just New York but with Roman pillars, people wearing togas, and a stadium called the Colosseum. There's also a ton of bad CGI. I'm talking about bad textures, glitchy movement, and sloppy implementation. It looks like a child's work at times. Outside of the rare good shot, most scenes are just a collection of bad decisions that will leave you scratching your head. Sound-wise, the film is quite boring and poorly executed. There's a lot of basic instrumentals that are either way too loud and conflicting with the dialogue, or so quiet you can barely notice them. There's also a couple of original songs that are brought out in strange places that do very little for the storytelling experience. They don't bring any emotion to the table, just a bit of flavor. The flavor often feels out of place though and detracts from the scenery. For a cherry on top, the film also has a 4-minute long music video that has nothing to do with the story. It's even presented by a background character who promptly exits the film in the very next scene. Personally, I found this film to be a chore to sit through, like an academic paper more concerned with sounding smart than actually trying to find any truth. I couldn't connect with the characters because they were outlandish and bland, and the only real highlights for me were Giancarlo Esposito and a few of the shots. The rest of the movie was so poorly produced that I would recommend you don't waste any money on this film. Don't buy it, don't go see it. If you really want to watch it, wait until you can pirate it. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 2 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye!